Good morning. The purpose of this presentation is to give you an overview of edTPA and help you to understand the implementation process. The presentation is divided into 5 different sections guided by the questions that you see here. In the first section, we'll look at the definition and background of edTPA. And the second and third sections, we'll look at what edTPA assesses and the tasks and rubrics used to complete that assessment. And section 4 will explore the benefits and opportunities that accompany edTPA implementation. Finally, we'll close with a brief look at some questions and resources to guide and support implementation. What is it? Well, it's a student-centered, multiple measure assessment of teaching. Basically, an authentic assessment of teaching. It was developed by members of the profession to assess, inform, and support the profession. edTPA has grown out of knowledge and expertise of educational researchers and practitioners and can contribute to the furthering of professional knowledge and improved practice. Faculty and staff at Stanford Center for the Assessment, Learning, and Equity, or SCALE, developed edTPA and is formally called the Teacher Performance Assessment. Excuse me. They received substantive advice and feedback from teachers and teacher educators and drew from experience gained from over 25 years developing performance-based assessments of teaching, including the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards and Interstate Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium, or INTASC, Standards Portfolio, and the Performance Assessment for California Teachers, or PACT. The design and review teams were comprised of more than 200 university faculty, national subject matter organization representatives, and P-12 teachers. Although there were many voices involved in the building of edTPA, there are 3 main organizations involved with edTPA implementation at this point: SCALE, AACTE, and Pearson. SCALE owns the intellectual property rights to edTPA and is responsible for all designs and development work, including the handbooks, implementation, support resources, scoring, training, design. SCALE benchmarks all materials used in the scoring training. AACTE plays a support role in the development and implementation of edTPA by providing ongoing support to providers managing the edTPA website and disseminating information about edTPA to its member institutions. And Pearson is the operational partner that makes edTPA available nationally and provides the technical platform to collect, score, and deliver results to teacher candidates and preparation programs. Pardon me. A frequently asked question when we discuss partnerships is who scores the edTPA? What's the role of each partner in that important step? Well, edTPA scorers are teacher educators, clinical supervisors of student teachers, P-12 teachers, administrators, and national board certified teachers. And all scorers are selected because of their verified experience, both with beginning teachers and teaching the subject matter area in which they will score. Currently, there are more than 600 teacher preparation programs in about 40 states and the District of Columbia using edTPA at different levels. The map is broken into 3 different colors. You'll see red, which is full implementation of the program. You'll see green, which are states taking steps toward implementation, and beige, which are the states in which at least one provider is testing out the program edTPA. Shifting the focus of teaching from the model that we remember from the past, which is the teacher delivering content, and now we're shifting toward a student-centered learning. So let's stop and think about that for a moment. What does that seem to mean, the shift? The definition also calls attention to the fact that this assessment is composed of multiple measures of edTPA tasks that require candidates to submit a variety of artifacts and evidence that, taken together, create a well-rounded representation of their teaching. We will spend time later in this presentation discussing the various components and tasks, but this slide gives you a quick overview of the types of information captured in a completed edTPA. And those include things which are lesson plans, videos of your teaching artifacts such as handouts, slides, etc., student work samples, narrative explanations and rationales, and reflections. The edTPA process is an educative process. Not only can candidates learn more about teaching and student learning by completing the tasks, they can also gather useful feedback that can inform their professional development plans in years to come. Teacher, educators, and programs can also use edTPA data to evaluate their programs and initiate improvements. Finally, edTPA provides opportunities for research and produces data that can inform programs and policymakers about issues related to effective teaching and improving student learning. We'll talk about the potential benefits of these opportunities in Section 4. As a performance assessment, edTPA is designed to capture and assess authentic teaching practice. In the 2010 Center for American Progress Report evaluating teacher effectiveness, Linda Darling-Hammond discusses how traditional assessment measures such as completion of a preparation program or passing scores on academic skills and subject matter exams don't effectively predict teacher effectiveness. However, structured performance assessments that require authentic evidence of teacher practice are a much more valuable tool in assessing readiness to teach. edTPA examines a candidate's readiness to teach by focusing on components of successful teaching, and those components include the following. Take a moment and review these components, and we'll come right back. The authentic evidence collected through edTPA tasks provides a measure of candidates' mastery of these teaching components, and thereby of their readiness to teach. What does edTPA assess? It's intended to be used as a summative assessment given at the end of an educator preparation program for teacher licensure or for certification, and to support state and national program accreditation. Basically, it's designed to answer the question, is a new teacher ready for the job? It's designed to be a capstone assessment, one of multiple measures in the teacher preparation program, and it complements data provided by program-specific assessments and standardized professional assessments of content knowledge and basic skills. It does not replace faculty observations and evaluations of coursework and fieldwork. As a capstone assessment, it integrates the components of successful teaching that are at the core of the programs. This slide indicates edTPA's assessment of candidates' planning, instruction, and assessment practices to ascertain whether they align with the criteria of effective teaching. The three integrated tasks of edTPA focus on the components of effective teaching cycle represented in this graphic. What are those three? The planning task documented intended teaching and attends to how candidates use their knowledge of student and knowledge of content to design appropriate lessons. Candidates must consider and describe what their students bring to the classroom, including prior academic learning, lived experiences, and personal, cultural, and community assets, and explain how they use that knowledge to plan effective lessons. Academic language is the language of the discipline that students need to learn and use to engage in meaningful ways in the content area. In other words, it's the oral and written language that students need in order to participate in a discipline, to understand, learn, and discuss and ask questions about content-specific concepts. Each content has its own academic language, which includes vocabulary and terms, but also includes syntax, or ways of organizing words and symbols, and discourse, ways of writing and discussing content. In addition to the planning, instruction, and assessment elements of effective teaching that span across specific components of teaching, there are 27 subject-specific handbooks. While all handbooks share a common architecture and similar tasks and rubrics, candidates are asked to demonstrate knowledge of their content, use of appropriate subject-specific pedagogy, and awareness of discipline-specific academic language. What does it assess? Next, we'll take a look closer at exactly what candidates do for the edTPA task and also at the rubrics used to guide and assess their work. edTPA is comprised of 3 major tasks: planning, instruction, and assessment. With each task, candidates are asked to make some specific relative and analytical moves, such as justifying planning decisions, analyzing teaching, and explaining how they use data to inform instruction. Prompts in the handbook guide these reflections and analysis. Academic language is a running focus throughout the tasks. Again, prompts and rubrics guide candidates to articulate how they support development of the academic language in the classroom. Each of the subject-specific handbooks guides candidates through the process of creating a portfolio of artifacts and commentaries. The handbooks are clearly organized. Headings like those listed here guide candidates to think about the task, collect the required artifacts, and respond to the prompts. Handbooks also include all the rubrics, clear specifications for artifact and commentary formats, and links, and a helpful subject-specific glossary. For each of the 3 tasks, candidates must submit artifacts and complete commentaries. For task 1, candidates justify their planning based on their knowledge of the context and their knowledge of their students. They consider things such as academic, social, and emotional language development, and prior academic learning and lived experiences and personal, community, and cultural assets. Candidates must submit lesson plans for 3 to 5 consecutive lessons referred to as a learning segment, along with relevant instructional materials such as assignment handouts. Task 2 involves filming and uploading 1 to 2 unedited clips of classroom instruction. Prompts in this section ask candidates to discuss how they create a positive learning environment and engage students in learning. They also reflect on what they would change about their instruction and justify their responses with evidence from the video. Task 3 focuses on assessing student learning. Candidates must select one assessment from the learning segment, submit the evaluation criteria for that assessment, and analyze the whole class and individual student learning. Artifacts include a summary of the patterns and whole class instruction, samples of work from 3 students, and the feedback given to these students. The commentaries include an explanation of how the assessment data will inform next steps for instruction, both for the class and for the individuals. For most fields, there are 15 subject-specific rubrics, 5 for each task. Each contains a focus, which can be found in the title, a guiding question, and 5 performance levels that illustrate a progression from not ready to teach to stellar candidate. Level 1 represents the knowledge and skills of a seriously struggling candidate who is not ready to teach. Level 2 represents the knowledge and skills of a candidate who is possibly ready to teach. 3 represents those knowledge and skills of a candidate who is qualified to teach. Level 4 indicates a candidate with a solid foundation of knowledge and skills. And level 5 represents the advanced skills and abilities of a candidate very well qualified and ready to teach. The rubric levels are additive and correspond to expanding repertoire of skills and strategies and a deepening level of reflection and analysis. They move from teacher focus to student focus, from whole class teaching to teaching individuals and groups. They also reflect a progression in the level of justification and analysis of teaching from fragmented and indiscriminate to intentional and carefully executed. It should be noted that the teacher and whole class focus is not exclusive to level 1, but extends up to even level 3. So the teacher whole class focus is characteristic of the lower end to middle of the rubrics, and the student flexible groups focus is characteristic of the mid to upper levels. What does that mean? Let's think about it. To see this progression in an actual rubric, take a look at rubric 5 from the Secondary Mathematics Handbook. What do you notice? Notice the rubric focus planning assessments to monitor and support student learning, along with the guided questions at the top, which reflects the subject-specific nature of the task. Then notice how each level indicates a deeper or higher level of analysis and practice. Stop and discuss these with a neighbor for a few minutes. After candidates complete the edTPA tasks, they submit them for evaluation. The submission process will vary according to the institution, which is us at GCSA, but with most places using data management platform to streamline the process. We ask here at GCSA that you submit directly through Pearson. edTPA is designed to be educative, so there are many potential benefits to implementation. The experience and data produced by edTPA implementation can benefit candidates, programs, and the profession itself. edTPA provides an educative experience for candidates. Many have reported that completing the task led them to be more reflective and to more carefully consider their teaching practices. In that way, the process is a valuable addition to their preparation. The benefits also extend beyond the preparation phase into the induction years. The edTPA experience and performance can guide the development of individual professional development plans that target a candidate's particular needs. Finally, because edTPA aligns with commonly used teacher evaluation systems like Danielson's framework, candidates will find it easier to complete such assessments and more reflective after completing edTPA. They will also be poised to pursue national board certification, one of the profession's highest honors, since edTPA is modeled on the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, and the processes are quite similar. These final two items can also benefit school districts. New hires who have completed edTPA will be better prepared for teacher assessments and will contribute to an effective teaching force that places student learning at the center of their work. For teacher education programs, edTPA offers rich data and feedback that can help identify strengths and weaknesses within the program and bring to light areas that need revision or strengthening. edTPA-related initiatives have the potential to build and strengthen teacher education profession. edTPA provides opportunities for individual program and cross-institutional research and collaboration, allowing us to build and share professional knowledge that can influence policy and practice. What are the next steps? Of course, you probably have many questions, both practical and theoretical, about edTPA. This introductory presentation has touched on many ideas, and you can explore these and other topics more fully by visiting the edTPA website, edtpa.com, and resource library. There you will find resources on supporting candidates and curriculum mapping, samples of research and scholarship on edTPA, and answers to frequently asked questions. Next, we're going to work in collaborative groups. Your collaborative group will be responsible to read and teach the first assigned portion. We're going to have 4 groups: Introduction, Task 1, Task 2, and Task 3. Once you've been taught by the first group you meet with, you'll be responsible to teach the segment that they taught you to the next group. For example, if I start with the Intro 1, if I'm assigned that as my teaching task, my group will read the introduction together or jigsaw that introduction, and then come back together to review it. And then we'll meet with a second group, which is probably to be task 1 group, and we will teach each other. This is known as reciprocal teaching. And then we'll take what we learned from the task 1 group and teach it to either the task 2 or task 3 group, who also will be teaching what they learned from the group previously. Here you'll find your timeline of support from GCSA. This is just a general outline, but we do plan to come back in January having completed task 1, which you'll find on my blog. And then after January, we'll talk more about what's expected for task 2 and task 3, or during January's meeting. Okay, what should I do next? You're going to need to find a buddy who lives or works nearby or is conveniently located for mutual peer feedback, or you may want to consider finding someone within your same assessment area. You'll then use the edTPA booklet for your assessment field to complete task 1, and then we'll complete a mock edTPA to come back with in January with a video sample for review. Let's take a listen to some Kennesaw State students speaking about edTPA.
Absolutely. I think that edTPA really helped me in that you decide what you're going to do, but you also have to share why you're doing it. So I think that there's 2 sides of teaching. You know what to do, but you also need to know why. So pairing those together and really having to think through exactly how those things connect is one way that edTPA really helped me moving forward. I never have felt confident in math, and so I really want to, as a teacher, teach my students a variety of ways and strategies in order to really understand math and not just compute. So that was a benefit towards task 1, is they want you to show how your students not just know how to do it, but like the deeper, like why those things work, why those strategies work. So initially I was intimidated by the video. However, in a previous semester, we had a class that had us do a signature assignment. And that signature assignment was filming ourselves, and then we'd bring it to class and we'd discuss what we could do better, what we did really well. So it was very beneficial to see how the filming works. So then applying back to when I was actually doing edTPA, I was not scared at all. I was pretty comfortable with it.
I think I would encourage them to find other students that they trust, that they can kind of go through this with, so that when there's those late all-nighters that they are discouraged, there's someone to call who knows what they're going through. Also to find faculty and staff at their university that understand and can really come alongside them. And just to realize that you can push through and figure it out, and it'll be okay, and it'll benefit you in the end, even if you can't see in the moment.